Can all of you hear me comfortably? Yes. Can all of you ignore me comfortably? I seek your blessings. I feel that you should speak and I should sit and hear from you. Please feel free to comment or correct and at whatever time you would like to be here. Thank you. So today I'll be talking on the topic of resilience based on the Bhagavad Gita. So let's look at this verse. I'll explain the verse and then we'll recite it a few times. So, na praharishet priyam prapya. So priyam is getting what is desirable, what is pleasing. So the world, I'll also depict what we are talking about over here. So the world is filled with dualities. And they say kabhi khushi, kabhi gam. So for some people, these dualities get escalated. When something good happens, they go way up. When something bad happens, they go way down. So when these dualities happen, say for example, there's a kind of depression called the manic depressive manic personality. So there, when they are high up, when things are going nicely, they feel as if I can move the whole world. And when they go down, it's like the whole world can't move them out of their bed. They pull the curtain over, pull the blanket over themselves and stay there. So the dualities can affect us way too much. So on the other hand, when we grow spiritually, what happens is, we tend to become steadier. So the downs, we don't go so much down. The ups, we don't go so much up. So Krishna is saying that good and bad things will happen, but na praharishet priyam prapya. So praharishet is to become jubilant. So let's recite this. Na praharishet priyam prapya.
Na praharishet priyam prapya.
And then the opposite, na udvijet. Udvijet is to become dejected. Praharishet is to become elated, to become dejected. Na udvijet prapya cha apriyam. When we get something undesirable. So both these dualities, the extremes, we can avoid. Are you able to see this, what I'm writing? Or it's difficult? You can sit here somewhere. Or here also may have space. So, no dvijet prapya cha priyam.
No dvijet prapya cha priyam.
So, how do we do this? How do we avoid getting shaken by the dualities? Sthira buddhi. Sthira buddhi is the intelligence is fixed. Intelligence is steady. Asammoodho. Moodha is to be deluded. One does not get deluded. One's intelligence is fixed. Sthira buddhir asammoodho.
Sthira buddhir asammoodho.
And what are we fixed on? Brahmavit. Brahma is spiritual reality. Vit means to know the spiritual reality. And Brahmavit, Brahmani sthitaha. Not just to know it theoretically, but to become situated in spiritual reality. To realize it. So this is, if we consider the world to be like an ocean. That metaphor is often used, this world like an ocean. There are waves. And with the waves, if we are in the ocean, we'll go up and down. Say, if I am here, then I will go up and down. But if I have something like an anchor, okay, as you can see, my drawing is very good. So, okay, correct this. Anyway. So, if we have something like an anchor, and you hold on to the anchor, then the person will not be shaken by the waves. So, the anchor is what spirituality provides us. The spiritual connection that we develop, that is like our anchor. So it is unshaking. And to the extent it's unshaking, then the world's ups and downs don't shake us so much. The waves will still come, the waves will still hit. But to the extent we are holding on to the anchor, to the extent we will stay unshaken. So that is the idea of there is a spiritual reality beyond the reality of this world, which holds us steady. Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha.
Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha.
So let's recite once again. Na praharishet priyam prapya.
Na praharishet priyam prapya.
No dvijet prapya cha priyam.
No dvijet prapya cha priyam.
Sthira buddhir asammudho.
Sthira buddhir asammudho.
Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha.
Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha.
So, you done it. Let's try to recite it together now. Not responsibly, but together. Let's try to do it 3 times. Okay. Na praharishet
Priyam prapya. No dvijet prapya cha priyam. Sthira buddhir asammudho. Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha. Na praharishet priyam prapya. No dvijet prapya cha priyam. Sthira buddhir asammudho. Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha. Na praharishet priyam prapya. No dvijet prapya cha priyam. Sthira buddhir asammudho. Brahmavid Brahmani Sthitaha.
Om Jnanati Verandas Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So the topic we're discussing about is resilience. Now what does resilience mean to you? When somebody uses the word resilience or be resilient, what does it mean to you?
Bouncing back.
Bouncing back, yes. So life will knock us down. Some people are like a paper glass weight. Knock them down, they don't just stay down, they fall apart. But some can be like a sports ball. Hurl it down and it rises up. The greater the force it hurl down, you rise up. So resilience is about bouncing back. And in many ways it's a vital necessity for all of us. Because life will knock all of us down. Anything else about resilience? Yes. I think in one sentence you summarize everybody's answers. Okay. So when we talk about bouncing back, what is it that makes some people, so some people are, you could say, tough, and some people are brittle. So what differentiates it? Is it something intrinsic within us? And if it is intrinsic, then is it changeable? Is it not changeable? So that's what we'll try to discuss today. So I'll talk about this using an acronym ACT. So I'll talk about the whole session will be about 3 points basically. And so in general in our lives, that you can say that if we use a 4-quadrant diagram, there are things we can change. And there are things we can't change. And there are things we work on, we fight for. And there are things we give up working on. You can say we keep working on and we give up working on. We keep working on. So now if you consider these 4 categories, if I keep working on among these 4 quadrants, which would be, if we start with bottom right, clockwise we move up, which is the quadrant which will be productive and which will be unproductive? Sorry? The fourth one will be productive. Things which we can change and things we keep working on them. Now, which would be unproductive? Second one. We can't change and we give up working on them. That will be? No, that will also be productive. Isn't it? Third one will be? Unproductive. Sorry. Okay, yeah, correct. This is third one. Sorry. So in the second one is also productive. I can't work on it and I will give up on it. It's good to give up on it. Isn't it? And what about the first one? We can change, we give up working on it. This will be almost like self-defeating. Isn't it? So this is also unproductive, but more than unproductive, it is self-defeating. We could do something about it, but we didn't do anything about it. I hope this difference is clear. That if I can do something about it and I don't do anything, then that will be, if I have a disease that is curable, but I don't take the medicine, the disease can become severe, it can even become fatal. So broadly, when we face difficulties, so life knocks us down. And when life knocks us down, what do we do about it? If we have this mental framework, then it can help us face things a little bit more constructively. When the Bhagavad Gita begins, Arjuna has to fight a war. And this is a war he does not want to fight. He has to fight against his own guru. He has to fight against his own grandfather. He says, these are the people for whose pleasure he learned to fight. He would love to shoot targets and have them be pleased by that. But now he has to shoot them. For a warrior, this is like the worst nightmare come true for him. That's why he says, Katham Bhishma Mam Sankhe Dronam Chamadasudana Ishubi Pratyotsyami Pujara Varisudana. How can I fight against them? So, there are times in our life when we all face situations that we just can't do anything about. Krishna's response is Tam Stitiksha Svabharata. Tolerate. This is something you have to do in the course of your life. So, the ACT acronym I was saying, the first A is acceptance. What is the acceptance? Acceptance that some things can't be changed. Just can't be changed. No matter what we do, we just can't change them. So, many times our mind keeps replaying only what if scenarios. What if only I had spoken like this? What if I had done like that? What if he had done like that? What if she had done like that? So now it has happened. So acceptance that some things can't be changed. Some of you notice that I need crutches for walking. So when I was 1, I got polio. And I was staying in a small town in Maharashtra. And my mother had taken me to a polio clinic for getting a polio vaccine. But somehow in that clinic, the previous night the power supply had gone off. So because of that, the vaccines germ quantity increased. And when I was given the vaccine, the doctor didn't realize that. So what happened was that the vaccine, instead of preventing polio, ended up giving me polio. So just walking normally, and I fell down, and after that I could never walk normally. I don't remember any of that. What I remember is probably around 2.5 or 3, and some distant relative had come to meet us, and she was consoling my mother, saying, "It's so sad that your son got polio." And I remember my mother speaking in a very calm, clear, confident voice. Yes. Whatever he lacks physically, God will provide him intellectually. Now, I don't know why she said that, and she passed away soon after, so I didn't get to ask her. But somehow that stayed in my mind. And as I grew up, I couldn't play outdoor sports like other kids. But when I started reading, I noticed that I could just grasp things quickly. I could remember them much better. I could express myself far more clearly than others. So somehow at the back of my mind, that idea got settled that on one side I didn't do anything to deserve this physical inability or disability. But then I didn't do anything to deserve this intellectual ability either. So life is unfair. See, acceptance when something goes wrong, when something bad happens, the unfairness of it is what makes it very difficult to accept. So somehow it settled in my mind that yes, life is unfair, but life is, in the long run, fairly unfair. Fairly unfair means that in some things we get a deal worse than what we deserve. And in some things we get a deal better than what we deserve. So it took many years for me later when I studied the Bhagavad Gita to put this in words. For many times what happens for us, say, I may put in endeavor worth 100 and I get a result worth only 10. And this seems unfair. So for example, we may work in a team and we may do the lion's share of the work. And then at the end of it, when the project is done and the credits come out, we are just mentioned one among many names. And we don't get the due credit. We feel, hey, this is so unfair. So, yes, it is unfair. But if you look at it from another perspective, there are times when we may do work worth 10 and we may get result worth 100. And sometimes we may in our work join in a team and it is doing a project and the project is in its concluding stages. And the project becomes successful and we become a part of the winning team, the successful team. When India once won the World Cup, there was Cricket World Cup, there was one player who didn't play a single match throughout the World Cup. And still his picture was there in the World Cup winning team. So, what the Gita tells us is, so this thing that although life is unfair, sometimes we get more than what we deserve, sometimes we get less than what we deserve. But the nature of the mind is it tends to remember the times when we get less than what we deserve. So, one of the things that struck me, and I travel across the world, I often speak at venues where people with special needs assemble. And it's quite tragic. Somebody has lost an eye, somebody has lost a limb. And after my talk, I talk with the participants. And what strikes me is that so many people are fighting battles that were lost long ago. Okay, that accident happened, it's terrible, it's unfair, but it's over now. It's happened, but still, mentally, why did this happen? Why did this happen? If only I could have done that, if only that person had done that, if only this had happened. So, the fighting battles that we have already lost, That is the sure way to get ourselves lost. So I don't remember somehow myself feeling any resentment for whatever polio I had. And to a large extent, I give credit for that to my mother. She never made me feel that I was a burden or that my leg was also a burden for her. So she not only accepted me, but she also directed me toward a battle that I could fight, to a battle where I could win. So this acceptance, at one level, we could say it's just a brute psychological fact. We have to accept, we have to move on with life. But the Gita gives us the worldview of karma. And based on this worldview of karma, what it means is that when we get results for particular actions, those results are not due to our present actions alone. So when I am doing work worth 100 and I am getting result worth 10 only, that means from the past, karma worth minus 90 is coming in. And that is decreasing the result that I am getting now. And conversely, when I am doing work worth 90, worth 10, and I am getting result worth 100, that means I am having positive karma coming from the past. Now this idea that the results that we get are not just due to our present karma or our present action. Let's put this, the word karma has some philosophical connotation, but just present actions. That is not too difficult to understand. Say, recently I have started reconnecting with some of my school and college friends. Now, I know theoretically that when I was young, I was quite short-tempered. And what happened since my childhood, I was always good at words. I loved words. My vocabulary has always been good. But soon I realized that a bad temper and a good vocabulary is a deadly combination. Some people, they may have bad temper, but when they get angry, they just yell and scream and they're just incoherent. They just, okay, they can hurt, but it doesn't hurt much unless they become physically aggressive. Or some people, they just give others a silent treatment. But if somebody is articulate and short-tempered, they can be so sarcastic and they can cut others terribly. So when I reconnected with some of my school friends, there was one friend, and I was being polite and nice and friendly to him, and he was being very cold to me. And I started wondering, why is he being so cold? Then I talked with a third friend, and he said, you used to be really a verbal bully to him at that time. I said, really? I had not thought of the word, there could be a verbal bully also. But he said, that's what he described me. So when I am dealing with someone, that my present action is I am being polite. But the result that I am getting is, if the other person is cold, that is, so the results that we get are not just due to our present actions. We have our present actions and we have past actions. And the results come because of both. So sometimes if the negative actions are a lot from the past, then we may not get the result. Say if two people are playing a musical instrument. Say two people are playing a drum or a mridanga. Now both of them are playing the same instrument, but one of them has spent 100 hours of practice before. The other person has just picked up and started playing. Now both of them are playing, but the person who has spent 100 hours practicing, when they are playing a mridanga, people will say, more. And the person who just picked up and playing, people say, no more. So the idea is that the results that we get are not just due to our present actions. What the karma philosophy does is, it extends this cause-effect connection backward to beyond this life also. Now, that's not really unreasonable Because we all have some starting points in life. And nowadays there is some places the idea of genetic determinism, that we are all determined by our genes. But while genes can determine some aspects of our life, even identical twins who are genetically 100% the same still have different personalities. So our genes don't determine everything. We bring something from the past. So we all bring a karma baggage from the past. And that karma baggage shapes our actions. So this acceptance, when we learn to accept that some things can't be changed, even if they feel unfair to us, even if they are unfair to us, just accept that some things can't be changed. And this let go. Let go through acceptance. Some people will treat us unfairly. Some people will be terrible to us. And we'll trust some people and they'll betray us. This will happen at times. So accept that the things we can't change, I give up working on it. Now generally what happens is when we use the word give up, it seems like a failure or passivity. Why should I give up on something? But we give up on something to take up something else. And that brings us to the second part. What was the acronym I was discussing?
ACT.
Yeah. ACT. So C is commit. Commit to the things we can change. Not just the things we can change and want to change. So for all of us, whatever happens, there is never a situation where nothing is in our control. It can feel like that. Nothing I'm doing is working. I'm trying to work at my job, my boss is not happy. I'm at my home, my family is not happy. My health is going down. My spiritual meditation is also not working. Nothing seems to be working. So sometimes I feel whatever I am doing, nothing seems to be working. What is the point of doing anything? So at such times, it's important to remember that there is inside us we have a mind. And that mind perceives things in particular ways. So all of us will experience loss in life. Now the Gita says there are three gunas. Which are the three gunas? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So Sattva is associated with clarity. Rajas is associated with activity or sometimes hyperactivity. And Tamas is associated with lethargy, apathy, not doing anything at all. So you can put these three modes are, some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen. Some people wonder what happened. So in Sattva, people think, plan, they have clarity. This is what I can do, this is what you can do, let's all work together. They make things happen. In Rajas, let's start. You take up a suitcase, let's go out. You carry the suitcase, and carrying the suitcase, you forget to zip the suitcase only. 100 things fall out. Oh, some people watch what's happening over here. Some people watch things happen. And sometimes the whole world is moving, some people wonder what happened. They're just lost inside their own head only. That's Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So we will all experience loss. Loss means life will knock us down. We are dealing with the topic of resilience. So life will knock us down. So this is the event that has happened. But then there is the experience. How do we interpret or experience the event? So in Sattva, will be more objective. I have lost. I tried this, it didn't work out. I have lost. There's no use in being in denial. So I have lost. But in Rajas, one of the problems is that we become fixated on one thing. And then we may feel, I am lost. Not just I have lost, but I am lost. Say if somebody is invested 5-6 years in a relationship, and the relationship breaks up. People use the word break up, but mostly people break down. There's no up over there. It's unfortunately. But the thing is, when that happens, they feel, okay, I'm lost, I don't know what to do. So, at that time, it is among these two, which is more disorienting? I am lost is much more disorienting. But the most damaging is when the mind interprets it as, I am a loser. So, a loss is something which can happen to anyone. But when the mind interprets, this loss means I am a loser, then that is a toxic interpretation. So, somebody may fail in an exam, somebody may be fired from a job, and somebody may have a breakup in a relationship. These things happen. These are events that happen. And these are a part of the duality of the world. But when the mind interprets it as, I am a loser, what this means is essentially, nothing I do will ever work. I have lost means I tried this didn't work. I am lost means, okay, now this battle I lost, what am I meant to do now? I don't even know. But I am a loser is where nothing will ever work. So this is where if we start thinking I am a loser, that's when we will go in this direction. Remember, self-defeating. We can change things, but we just quit trying. So this is a toxic mentality, where we start thinking, nothing I do will work, मेरी किस्मत ही फूटी है. उनकी किस्मत फूटी नहीं है, उनका दिमाग फूटा है. जो ऐसे बोलते हैं, मेरी किस्मत ही फूटी है. नहीं, किसी की. By the way, was I supposed to speak in Hindi? No.
English is fine.
So this is where people quit, and ultimately, see, if we are in a relationship with somebody who we think is a loser, then we would want to end that relationship as quickly as possible. If we think we are losers, we can't end our relationship with ourselves. We can't break up with ourselves. It's a terrible state to live in lifelong, where I am thinking, nothing I do will ever work. So, I was in America staying at one devotee's house. I used to go many years. So I saw that they had one daughter, and I thought another girl was staying with them. So I asked her, staying for a few days at their home. And then I asked her, she said that she is my niece. So it's a tragedy in their home. Their home had a fire, and both her parents died. So it was horrible. She was, as some of you may know, in Los Angeles, there are terrible fires going on. We have many devotees staying in those areas. They had to leave from there. So anyway, so she came and she was staying with them. And then I was staying with her. Then she started talking. She was a little silent, but she was going to start talking. And then she was about 6.5 probably. And then one day she said, I want to talk with you. I said, okay. She said, he says, am I bad or am I bad luck? I said, why are you thinking like this? What happened? No, he said, my parents who died. Is it because I am bad so I am being punished? Or is it I am bad luck? So because I was there, and that's why this happened to them. I said, neither of these is true. It says, I asked her, do your uncle and aunt love you, take care? They are very nice. He said, they take very much care of me. I said, if you were bad, if something was supposed to happen to you, then why would they be there to take care of you? So it's not that there is some God who is angry with you. He said, God Krishna is in your heart. He is with you. And He is with your parents also, wherever they are. So now see, when a child speaks like this, it brought tears to my eyes the other time. I am bad or I am bad luck. And I am bad means I have done something bad, I am being punished for it. I am bad luck means that wherever I go, I will cause bad things to happen to others also. In a child, it is tragic. in an adult, this kind of thoughts are toxic. So adults may not speak these things, but we all have our minds and they can interpret things in terrible ways. So when we start thinking, oh, nothing I do will ever work. So there is one way, all of us may have heard that our mind, it can trick us, it can deceive us. But there's one thing which we also can do. We can trick our mind. Just as the mind can trick us, we can trick our mind. So suppose the mind says, there is nothing you can do about this. This is such a terrible situation, nothing is working. Nothing is working, nothing will ever work. Yes. So at that time, we can ask ourselves. So the mind is basically discouraging us from trying to do anything to make things better. Nothing will ever work. So at that time, we can turn the argument around and say, okay, mind is saying, I can do nothing about the situation. Okay. Can I make things worse? Say, what kind of fool are you? Things are terrible. Who will want to make them worse? Yeah, it's a thought exercise. Can we make things worse? No matter how bad things are, we never lose the power to make them worse. However bad a relationship might be, we can always make it worse. However bad our health is, we can make it worse. However bad our financial situation is, we can make it worse. So, if we never lose the power to make things worse, then we are not as powerless as our mind is telling us. If I can make things worse, then I can make things better also. So we need to trick the mind. When the mind says you are powerless, you are a loser, you can do nothing. No. Can I make things worse? Yes. Then I can make things better also. So here, when we talk about this karma, it's important that the philosophy of karma be understood properly. Many times people think the whole philosophy of karma is about judgment. You have done some bad things and you are going to be punished for those bad things. Now, this is not the overall mood or emphasis of karma. Why? Because the emphasis of or focus of karma philosophy, it is not backward. Backward means it is not past based or past centered. See, Krishna does not, although Krishna is with Arjuna and Krishna is God and Krishna is omniscient, Krishna does not give Arjuna any special previous life revelation. You were so and so in a previous life, and Bhishma was so and so in a previous life, and Bhishma did this and you did this, and because of those interactions, now you have to fight with each other. So, if we start focusing on karma as a system of justice alone, it's all about judgment, then it can seem very inadequate and cruel. Because in any system of justice, the accused needs to be told what is the crime. Isn't it? We are not told what is our crime. We are not given a chance to defend ourselves. We are just going through life normally, and suddenly we get cancer, or we get some terrible problem comes up. So, if you see in the Bhagavatam, when Yudhishthir Maharaj, when Parikshit Maharaj is talking with the bull who is being beaten by Kali, at that time Parikshit asks the bull that what is the cause of your suffering? And the reply that the bull gives is very intriguing. It's humbling. He says, Vakya Bheda Vimohita. So it's different people, different philosophers have different ideas about the cause of suffering. And considering all these views, I'm confused. I do not know what is the cause of suffering. And what does Parikshit Maharaj say? You are supposed to be dharma, you should know everything. How can you not know? But actually, Parikshit Maharaj appreciates, congratulates him. So what is the point over there? That it's very difficult to know what is the cause of suffering. It's not so easy. Even the Bhagavad Gita says, Gahana karmano gati. The focus of karma is not judgment. It is encouragement. It is future based or forward looking. What do I mean by this? The essence of karma philosophy is that how does it encourage us? Our actions matter. Our actions matter even if they don't seem to. So I am working so hard, but nothing is working. I am trying to study for this exam, I am working on this relationship, I am trying to do this, do that, nothing seems to be working. So at this point our mind starts thinking nothing will work for me. But karma philosophy tells us that if I am doing actions and I am not getting results, that does not mean my actions are worthless. That just means that right now I am going through a phase of negative karma, because of which my actions are not producing the results. But that does not mean our actions don't matter. Our actions always matter. That's why karmannevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Karmannevadhikaraste. You have a right to do your work. Why? Because your actions will always matter. But ma phaleshu kadachana. Don't think your actions entitle you to the results. Because the actions alone don't determine the results. There are previous actions coming into the picture also. So this karma philosophy, if you understand it properly, then it can help us to stay encouraged. And you'll see that in our life we go through phases. Some phases, nothing we do seems to work. And after that we come in phases where these things seem to fall in place. Things are just working. That in English there is this thing, Midas touch. Have you heard this?
Yes.
It's like, that whatever you touch seems to turn into gold. I was talking with one young man in America and he was telling, I seem to have got the reverse Midas touch. Whatever I seem to have gold and I touch it and it turns into iron. Everything seems to be falling apart. But that's just a phase we are going through. And the good thing about phases is they are all temporary. So commit to doing what we can, because our actions always matter. The results may not come right now, but that does not mean the actions are in vain. Some of us, we may have to go through a greater phase of negative karma, and that's why we may have to push on for a longer time. Some of us may have to go through a smaller phase of negative karma, so we'll get to the results sooner. But our actions always matter. Now, of course, this does not mean that we should keep fighting any and every battle. It's important that we have this last step. We can say in every situation, okay, there could be 10 things I can do right now. Now, which of them should I commit to? Should I commit to anything and everything? So that also we have to think about, isn't it? So that brings us to the last part, that is T. It is transcend. Transcend insecurity. By transcend, so accept, then we have commit, and then we have transcend. Transcend insecurity by dedication to a higher purpose. Ultimately, the higher purpose that the Gita tells us is the service of the Lord. But we transcend. Life is not so much simply about avoiding problems. Life is about focusing on a higher purpose in life. So which endeavor should I focus on? When Krishna tells Arjuna, tolerate. This is a bad phase in your life. I was in Australia and I was giving a talk. And the talk was on tolerance. So there's one person in that particular city, a young man, he actually likes to hear my classes and gives a good thoughtful feedback. He appreciates some points and says, this was not very clear, this didn't convince me. So I like that kind of discussion. So this day he came for the talk, but he came a little late, so he's sitting behind. And my talk was on tolerance. So after the talk got over, he said, today was the best talk from you that I've ever heard. I said, okay, what did you like? He said, actually, normally your talks give me a lot of intellectual stimulus. But today I got in your talk also a practical opportunity to apply it. I said, what do you mean? My talk was on tolerance. So are you saying that you have to tolerate my talk? So he saw my face. And he said, no, what I meant was, I was sitting behind. And because I was sitting behind, so the person sitting next to me was probably a new person, and his phone was constantly beeping. And the phone was constantly beeping, so I got a little annoyed. And I was about to speak strongly to him, and then I thought, oh, this is a class on tolerance. So he said, let me tolerate. So then I told him, with all due respect. See, whenever somebody uses the word with all due respect, you can know that whatever they are going to speak after that is not going to be very respectful. So I said, with all due respect, that is not tolerance. That is impotence. See, when we say accept, in the Bhagavad Gita, in 2.14, Krishna says tolerate. Tolerance is the message. But before tolerance, in 2.13, Krishna gives intelligence. Now we need to have intelligence to know what to tolerate and what not to tolerate. In intelligence he gives by explaining the difference between the body and the soul. So for all of us in our life, there are big things and there are small things. So the difference between the big things and the small things is that the big things are what we need to keep big. If you come for this talk, say, now, if say you find it a little difficult sitting on the floor, then it's a little inconvenience. After all, the class is only going to go for 24 hours. And it's going for a few minutes more, 10, 15, 20 minutes more. So big things, it's a small thing, you keep it small. Okay, it's a little uncomfortable, but I can manage it. So first we need to know what is a big thing and what is a small thing. And tolerance is about keep small things small, so that we can keep big things big. If we let small things become big, then big things will become small. Isn't it? So tolerance doesn't mean we tolerate anything and everything. When Krishna is telling Arjuna tolerate, his message is about tolerate. This tolerate doesn't mean he's saying tolerate the Kauravas' atrocities. Anyway, they've done terrible things to you. Just tolerate it. He's saying that is not what is tolerated. Because they are on the side of adharma. Now, if they have done this to you and your family and your wife, tomorrow if they get unchallenged power, they'll do similar and other worse things to citizens, to everyone else. You are a protector. You have to focus on establishing dharma. And while fighting for dharma, what you need to tolerate is fighting against Bhishma and Drona. Because they have chosen the side of adharma, so you have to fight against them. So what to tolerate and what not to tolerate, that's also important to understand. So now why am I talking about this? I was saying transcend insecurity by dedication to a higher purpose. So what this means is that for us, okay, there are some things I can change. But just because I can change a thing doesn't mean I have to change it. There are 10 things I could change in the situation. Which one should I focus on? That depends on our higher purpose. So the Gita tells us each one of us is a part of Krishna. And this is not just a philosophical fact which you can use to refute Mayavada. Oh, we don't become one with God, we are always parts of God. That is true. But this point that we are parts of Krishna. And we are parts of Krishna always. So this is 15.7 Gita. This is a philosophical fact. Mamaivaamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. But what does this mean at a personal level or a psychological level for us? It means that we have parts in Krishna's plan always. We are always parts of Krishna, and each one of us has a part in Krishna's plan. So, say suppose somebody is a part of the Indian national cricket team. If they are a part of the Indian national cricket team, means they have a part in the team. Maybe they could be opening batsman, middle order batsman, fast bowler, spin bowler, wicket keeper. They have a part. So like that, we are all parts of Team Krishna. And we always have parts in Krishna's team. On the Indian national team, somebody can be deselected. But we will never be deselected from Krishna's team. Sanatana, we are always his parts. So, what is the part that I can play in this situation? That is the essence of Seva Bhav. Service attitude. When we talk about bhakti is about chanting Krishna's name, it is about worshipping Krishna. But it is not just about that. Bhakti is essentially about a Seva Bhav. Seva Bhav means that maybe not my plan. That may not work, but my plan is not working, but Krishna's plan is still working. So, I conclude with the last point and then we can have questions. So, now, what does Krishna's plan mean actually? So, any of you heard of this thing called GPS? What is it? Sorry?
It's a global positioning system.
Yes, it is God's positioning system. So, we are always within a divine GPS. Sometimes what may happen is that, say, we are driving and the GPS says turn right and we turn left. And what happens? GPS says, you didn't obey me, get lost. No, GPS never does that. GPS immediately reroutes and gets us back on the right destination. So, like that, we may have taken a wrong turn, or somebody may else may have misled us into a wrong turn. Whatever it is. See, we may feel we are lost, but we are never lost to Krishna. The GPS has got the whole territory mapped out. And if you have taken a wrong turn, from there also we can get to the destination. Like that, we are never lost to Krishna. So now for us, we are always a part of Krishna's plan. When in Bhakti, this Seva Bhav I said, that Bhakti has two distinct aspects to it. One is the connection with Krishna. And the other is the contribution to Krishna. Connection means that happens through our remembrance. So when we are chanting the holy names, when we are praying to Krishna, that is not just, it's a part of my culture, it's something which I learned from my tradition. It is so that we remind ourselves that Krishna is not some just God who is somewhere far away up there. Krishna is right here in my heart. And Krishna wants to guide me. It's to, in one sense, the daily sadhana that we do, the prayers that we chant, they are meant to remind us that we are within Krishna's GPS. Sometimes, when we don't do the sadhana well, then the GPS signal starts becoming weak. And then the GPS doesn't seem to be working, and then we just don't know what to do. Where do I go? What do I do? So, when we do our sadhana regularly, that connection, that remembrance comes that actually I am within Krishna's GPS. And then the contribution is service. Service means, yes, we can come to a temple, come to a center and cook some prasad, serve some devotees, that's good. But our whole life is also meant to be a service. So service attitude simply means, how can I make things better? Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone. Krishna wants things to be better. He wants things to be better for me. He wants things to be better for others. So if I am a part of Team Krishna, then Krishna's mission is my mission. So in whatever situation I am in, how can I make things better? Just have that simple question. So this is where, just have that curiosity. How can I make things better? And a small step takes forward. Okay, this is what I can do. I do this one thing, and I can do the next thing. Just keep moving forward, take small steps forward. And Srila Prabhupada went to America. He said that when he landed on the coast of American coast of Boston Pier, he said, I didn't know whether to turn left or right. It's amazing. Srila Prabhupada, he at one level said that there are temples and they are filled with devotees and only time is separating us. So in one sense, when we have this transcend means what? I focus on Krishna and his service. So when we have transcend, we have this bhakti, transcend through devotion. There is a mysterious combination of certainty and uncertainty. On one side, Prabhupada has certainty that there are temples, they are filled with devotees. And yet, Prabhupada also said, when I landed in America, I didn't know whether to turn left or right. Even in the song that he composed, Markine Bhagavad Dharma, he says, Ache kicho karyata be ei anumane, nahi ke no ani be na ei ugrasthane. He says, Anumane. Anumane means I guess. I guessed you must have some purpose for me. Otherwise, why would you bring me here? So now Prabhupada is a pure devotee. Why is he saying, I guess? We are always finite beings. And it's not that Krishna, Prabhupada had a hotline with Krishna constantly. And when Prabhupada was talking with one person, Krishna was saying, this person is not going to become a devotee. Don't spend time with this person. This person is going to become a devotee, spend time with this person. No, Prabhupada was doing his best, trying. Some things worked, something didn't work. But Prabhupada's mood was, let me try to serve. So this transcend ultimately means that we accept that we do not know how things will work out. But that seva bhava when we have, yes, I am connected with Krishna's GPS. We connect ourselves with Krishna and we contribute. How can I make things better? So this certainty and uncertainty, what it means is that basically we are ready to take one step, even if the full path is not clear. Even if the full path is not clear, we are ready to take one step. This, you can say, is an operational definition of faith. There can be many definitions of faith, but from an operational perspective, I'll take one step forward, even if I don't see the full path. Sometimes the power goes off. We can curse and rant why the power gone off. Or we can turn on our flashlight. Now we turn on our phone flashlight, that does not replace the street lights, but it can show us one step ahead. If we take the one step, it can show us the next step. It can show the next step. So like that, when we want to recover from adversity, when we are going to have resilience, it is, we transcend the world's conception of success and failure. Oh, this is terrible, this is wonderful. By focusing on Krishna and the attitude of service to Krishna. We take small steps, and eventually we'll find that Krishna has brought us to a better place. Not just externally, he has taken us out of that adversity, but internally, through that whole situation, we have become stronger, we have become wiser, we have become tougher. So we become like that ball and it is thrown down, we bounce back. So that happens. Just take small steps incrementally. What can I do in this situation to make things better? So So I'll summarize what I discussed. We focus on the topic of resilience today. And I talked about 3 main points. What is the acronym?
ACT.
ACT. A was
Acceptance.
acceptance. So accept that some things can't be changed. So we discussed this 4-quadrant diagram, that what changeable and what we are working on. So not changeable and not working at all. So what we want to do is, we want to be this and this quadrant. We don't want to be in this or this quadrant. We don't want to keep working on things that can't be changed. So like that. So now how do we do this? So the acceptance, I talked about, the first 2 parts were more about karma. How do we accept that some things can't be changed? By understand that life is fairly unfair. The acceptance becomes very difficult because we feel life is unfair. But life is fairly unfair. Sometimes I do a lot and I get little. Sometimes I get little and I get a lot. That's because past karma is coming in. So, and C was commit. Commit to what?
What we can change.
Commit to the things we can change. And that's where I discussed the karma philosophy is not so much about judgment. It is about judgment, but it's much more about encouragement. That our actions matter even when they don't seem to matter. Because we're just going through a negative phase of karma, that's why the results are not coming. So we commit. Now, we commit to things we can change, but how do we know what is it among the things I can change I focus on? That's where we need intelligence. So intelligence is we keep the big, we know which are the big things and we keep them big. So some things I tolerate and some things I fight against, I change them. So what are the big things? I want to keep them big. So it is intelligence only that will lead to tolerance. Okay, this battle, I'm okay not fighting it. But this is a battle, I'll fight it. And then last was transcend. We transcend the insecurity. Will my efforts work? Is it worth it? All that we want to focus on a higher purpose. That higher purpose ultimately is Krishna. So we are, within that I talked about transcend by focusing on Krishna. I talked about connection and contribution. So connection is, we understand we are always in Krishna's GPS. We are always parts of Krishna, and that means we always have parts in Krishna's plan. So our connection Krishna's GPS is kept through our sadhana. Like sadhana reminds us that there is a higher reality. And that higher reality is here within me, cares for me, wants to guide me. And then contribution is through our seva. Seva, its contribution means how can I make things better? So I focus on just asking this question at a small level. I may not be able to make some big changes, but how can I make small steps to make things better? So when we have this attitude, we'll have bhakti. This contribution is a combination of certainty. Certainty is Krishna has a plan. Uncertainty may be, I don't know exactly what Krishna's plan is right now. But how do we deal with the uncertainty? Take one step. Take one step, even if the whole path is not clear. And we keep taking that one step, Krishna will eventually take us all to a better place. Srila Prabhupada said that the success he got exceeded even his own expectations. He said that was Krishna had a far bigger plan for him. Now, we are not Srila Prabhupada. There will not be that plan like that for us. But Krishna has a plan for each one of us. So by connecting with Krishna, we all can transcend whatever difficulties we may be facing right now. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any comments, corrections? Thank you so much. Yes, please.
First of all, I would like to thank you immensely for such an enlightening session. We'll be starting from resilience, acceptance, and then commitment and transcendence. Coming on to taking one step. Sometimes we drop in. It's very easy to pick up bad habits than to continue with good habits. So maybe we can take one step, but then we see that we are just stuck there. Or taking next step is, very gradual and taking a lot of time. How do we go about that?
Yeah. See, one part of accepting is also accepting our inability to change as fast as we want. So sometimes we overestimate our capacity. No, I think I should be able to do this. So, like say, India has Pakistan as a hostile neighbor. China also has a hostile neighbor. Now, to some extent, India did some surgical strikes and has put Pakistan in its place. India is not Dutch man to China right now. Why? Because that's not a battle we can win right now. China is much bigger. So sometimes in our lives, even some of our habits, maybe some of our conditionings may be too deep rooted for us to fight right now. But that does not mean India is letting China just take over all of the country. No. We have some boundaries, but okay, if some border area it has taken, we're not fighting to get it back right now. So like that, we have to accept that some battles I may not be able to win right now. So start with battles that are winnable for us. And if we find my habit is obstructing me, I'm not able to do this. So there are basically two ways we can change. So when habits, they seem to be, the habits are resilient. We are not resilient because of that, isn't it? So sometimes bad habits, when they seem to be too persistent, they are holding us down or holding us back. So there are two ways we can deal with it. One is that fight another battle. Fight for another healthy habit. Or fight another unhealthy habit to build a healthy habit. Fight another battle. So let's leave this habit for the time being. I may not be able to overcome it right now. The other could be, it's seek a smaller victory. Shanai Shanai Ruparamed. Krishna says gradually, step by step. So I may decide that every day I want to read Bhagavad Gita for 1 hour. I may make a New Year resolution and then I find that, for 1 week I have not read even one page. I can never do this. Okay, so 1 hour I cannot do, maybe I can do for 15 minutes. So seek a smaller definition of success. Fight a smaller battle. It may seem that, 15 minutes, what is I going to do? Well, we are not so much focused here on reading the Bhagavad Gita itself. We're focused here on developing the habit and developing the confidence that we can do something. So these are the two things we can do. Either fight a different battle or seek a smaller victory. And that's how we can keep moving forward.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the class. I was wondering, of late it has been like I'm trying to instruct my mind that no, accept things. You have to go beyond. But then the mind is so turbulent and it's shouting against. I'm telling all the philosophy and everything. So now I have very little realization, but I'm trying to tell the mind certain things. So you were mentioning in the session about tricking the mind. Could you please speak a little more about it?
Okay, so how to trick the mind when it is refusing to accept certain things? It's very difficult to know what will work with the mind. It is like, see, the mind is like our baby. You can read all the books on parenting that may be there in the world. But there is no one formula where you can keep a crying baby silent. Isn't it? Each parent has to find out what will work. And even what worked yesterday may not work today. Isn't it? So that's why with respect to dealing with the mind, we have to find out what works. So in general, so that attitude of being ready to experiment, being curious to see what works. Don't just assume that there's a formula and this is what should work. And yes, of course, we do our sadhana to purify our mind, and that will calm our mind eventually. But at the time when the mind is agitated, it may not be that any one formula will work at that time. So we have to have, based on our past experience, an array of weapons. Try this, try this, try this. Try and see what works. That's the first thing. But the second thing is, one of the best things we can do is with especially specifically with accepting something. Generally, that I can't change this, I have to accept it. That creates a sense of powerlessness and even failure within us. So instead, we need to focus on, okay, if I'm accepting this, by accepting this, I am shifting my energy to this. So rather than focusing on the battle that we are giving up, we need to focus on the battle we are fighting. When we have that battle as the focus, then what will happen is we will have some way to, this will become more bearable. It's like I'm saying, making this the small thing. But unless something else is the big thing for me, this small thing will keep becoming big. See, our mind is like a computer screen. And in this, there are many windows. Now, some windows just become, they zoom out. And sometimes some intrusive software is there. It just pops up, and you can't find the cross anywhere at all. So sometimes some pop-ups happen inside our mind like that. So actually, when we can't so much minimize something, but we can have something that we can maximize. If that window is still big, but I just drag another window and make it big. So we need to focus not so much on minimizing a window, but on maximizing some other window. We need to have something to maximize. So always focus on a battle that we are fighting. Say suppose we are in a job and the work environment is terrible. We feel like I just want to quit this job. But then maybe the pay is good. Maybe it's a respected company. Maybe that will be good for our track record in the long run. So then we need to focus on that part. And okay, this is why I'm here. So sometimes when we don't give ourselves a battle we are fighting for, then giving up any battle seems to be, why should I do this? Why should I accept defeat? So shift the focus on a bigger battle. Thank you. Yes.
My question is regarding acceptance.
So regarding
Acceptance.
acceptance.
Matlab, if I am in the fourth quadrant, where I'm working on the changeable thinking ki I will change and change. Like, for example, if I'm for my exams only, if I am, but I'm facing failure over and over again. I'm giving attempts and attempts, but I'm facing failure only. So when I can accept ki it may be ki it is not in my destiny, or it is I'm, it may be of the third quadrant ki I'm working on the things which I can't change. So
Yes.
how can I this classify ki in which one it am I?
It's a difficult question. The right answer, we should focus on things we can change. But sometimes we feel we can change some things, and then we realize that we can't change those things. So it happens that sometimes when this happens, what do we do? So thank you, Maharaj. Humble obeisances. So in 18.14 the Bhagavad Gita, this will be a long answer, but does anyone else have any other question or something?
Yes.
Okay, one question. We'll come to that. So I may take a little bit. So just take one question after this. See, there Krishna talks about 5 factors of action. Adhishthanam tatha karta, karanam cha pratag vidha, vividhas cha pratag cheshta, daivam chaivatra panchamam. So if I am here and I want the result, so these are like say 2 mountains, and there's a bridge we want to build. So Krishna says this bridge has 5 planks in it. And when all these 5 planks are together, then this bridge will take us from where I am to my desired result. The first is the self. Adhishta, so the soul has to be, the karta has to be there. And the last is destiny, daiva. But in between are 3 factors. So if a person may be a great singer, but the soul is not there. If the person is dead, that dead corpse cannot produce anything. The soul is the essential for action. And he says, what are the other 3 factors? There is There is place. Then there is endeavor. And then there are the tools. I'll explain. Tools, you can say, there are the talent. So, adhishthanam tatha karta karanam cha tathakvita. Let's take the example of gardening. If you want to garden, first of all, the soil has to be fertile. The soil is completely barren, no amount of endeavor is going to work. And then, after that, we have to have the right seeds. Those seeds should be such that they are potent and they can grow in that soil. And then, after that also, we may have to endeavor. Sometimes we put too much water, sometimes we do not put a proper fence and some other predator comes and eats it up. So we may have to endeavor and experiment. So the place has to be right. We should have to have the talent here refers to, say, if somebody wants to become a musician, then okay, if they want to play a particular instrument which nobody knows and nobody likes in that particular place, then they may have the talent in that instrument. Say like in India, suppose somebody wants to become a baseball player. Now most people will say, what is a baseball? Maybe before that, what is that $1 million movie or some movie was there? Slumdog Millionaire. So maybe before that Indians didn't even know what is baseball probably. So, but now we may know, but somebody is a baseball player, they may be talented, but they won't succeed in India. They have to go to a place where baseball is being played. So we have to have the talent, we have to be at the right place, and we have to put in the right amount of effort. So if somebody is digging for gold, so first of all we have to have be at a place where there is gold. Then we have to have tools. We have to have a drill, we have to have something which we are spade for digging. And then after that we have to dig deep enough. So when all three things work together, that's when the results come. And now all three things have to work together, but even after that, if we don't get the result, that's when we can attribute it to destiny. So that's when, see, if you consider Srila Prabhupada, of course everything that he did is transcendental, but still we can learn at a practical level. Prabhupada was preaching in India. Before that, Prabhupada was a grahastha. His Guru Maharaj told him, why don't you preach? So he thought that I'll earn money, I'll contribute to my spiritual master's mission. Now he worked very hard. He had a business in Kolkata, then he went to Mumbai, and then he went to Prayag. At that time, business people didn't move so much. People in government jobs would move, but business people relocate your whole family and relocate your whole business. Prabhupada was trying very hard. Prabhupada, by his nature, was a teacher. So people would come for medicine, he would start preaching to them. So that just didn't work. So the tools, the senses, the nature was not there for him. That was not his talent. Then he started becoming a preacher, but somehow at that time, India was not ready. India was still a very religious person, but Prabhupada was speaking philosophical spirituality in English. India was just not ready for that. Then Prabhupada changed the place. Now, even when he went to America, it did not give the result immediately. For the first 1.5 years, it was a torrid time. Many times with Prabhupada just thought, he had 2-month visa, he kept extending it for every 2 months. But each time I was thinking, maybe I should go back. Let me try on. So he had to endeavor. So, now even after doing this, after being in the right place, even after endeavoring, having the ability as a preacher, it's not that everything that Prabhupada did worked. Something will just not work. It happened that one time Srila Prabhupada said, let's start a political party. And he said, the advantage of being a political candidate is you can freely criticize everyone. So Prabhupada started a political party called In God We Trust. And then he told one devotee, that you can be the next president of America. And then after that, this devotee, he came to Prabhupada, Balwant Prabhu, and he said, Prabhupada, I am no longer enthusiastic about the political party. Prabhupada said, I am enthusiastic, just don't ask me for any money. So what Prabhupada meant was, initially he was very enthusiastic, but eventually he came to know about how much is the funding required to sponsor a candidate. And Prabhupada felt our movement was very new at that time. Said whatever financial resources we have, we would like to use them for direct devotional activities, printing books, opening centers. So Prabhupada said, okay, that's not going to work right now. So although Prabhupada's desire was there, it didn't work. And some things that didn't work like that also. So the thing is that we need to look at these three things. Do I have the compatible talent? Am I at a hospitable place? And is my endeavor sufficient? So this is compatible talent. If all these three we have done and the results don't come, then we may accept that maybe this is not meant to be. All these three, finding all of these and doing these three things is a part of our present karma. Sometimes you may hear stories about how people tried 10 times, 100 times, failed. Like Edison tried thousands of times to make a bulb and he failed. They say he succeeded finally. So that was all a part of the present karma. But Edison succeeded. Edison was not the only person trying to make a bulb. Others were also trying to make it. But they didn't succeed. So sometimes despite all these three working out, we will not get the result. Then we can say it is our past karma. And it's fair enough. There can be many things which may not work out. And we move on then to something else.
So one last question. So one thing that, thank you again for such a enlightening class. The definition of what service means was very touching to me, because based on our conversation in the car last night, I was just thinking, how can I make things better? When we have a certain disposition, natural abilities, or a ability to influence people in a certain group, and then there is a certain instrumentation that you are all designed to sort of provide in service of Krishna's preaching, Krishna consciousness preaching. However, there is also a certain embodiment at large of what actually is working in your setting, like in the general understanding of what preaching is or what passing the message really means. So when we spoke about it last night, you gave me a last suggestion. So my question to you is, how does one very firmly believe that this is the right thing instead of believing in the embodiment of what is the perception of preaching?
Okay, so let me pretend I understood your question.
So all of us have a certain instrument. Yes.
Basically, see, we have certain abilities, and with those abilities, we feel this is how I can serve, this is how I can share Krishna's message, I can contribute to preaching. But then there are certain standards or expectations.
Correct.
Of what preaching means, how service should be done. So then when we want to do something separately, so how do we know what we are doing? Is it really service or not? Yeah. So the thing is that in bhakti, sometimes people feel, oh, there are so many rules. There is conformity. Everybody has to do the same thing. But bhakti has both. There is conformity in the sense that we all chant the same mantra. We all worship the same Lord. But there is individuality in bhakti. That Krishna is our Lord. In that there is conformity. That Krishna is the supreme object of my love. That is conformity. But how I will love Krishna, how I will express my love to Krishna, and how Krishna will reciprocate, in that there is individuality. At one time when book distribution was at its peak in ISKCON, some devotees were very good book distributors, and they said to Prabhupada, we have found some lines. If we speak these lines, people just take books. So we want to go to temple and have some seminars teaching these lines to all the devotees. And Prabhupada became very grave. And Prabhupada said, bhakti, he says, Krishna consciousness is voluntary, individual and spontaneous. When a soul is inspired to serve Krishna, that is when service happens. So, he said, don't teach people lines. He said, inspire people to serve. And they will find the lines. So, the point is, there is room for individuality in bhakti. So, now, conformity is the object of love. Individuality is the expression of love. Expression of love is specifically through the service that we do in our life. So, different devotees can serve Krishna in different ways. Now, if we feel strongly inspired to serve Krishna in a particular way, then nobody's going to stop us. We can always talk with some senior devotees. Of course, we should talk with those who are like-minded. Those who understand. If, say, somebody wants to serve by doing some artwork, somebody wants to serve by making some new form of music. Now, if somebody is a very traditional person, they will say, no, why do you do this? But we may reach new audiences through that. So we need like-minded association as guidance. But after, so that the first step would be like-minded association. That those who understand what we are trying to do, they have at least some sense. But after that, so like-minded association can mean many things, but essentially here it means they share a similar definition of success. In bhakti, there can be many definitions of success. If somebody's definition of success is, say, building a big temple, and then, maybe we want to, say, learn Shastra very deeply. Now, say, okay, in this Bhagavad Gita, what does this verse actually mean? And why does this verse come after that verse? Somebody will say, what is the use of doing that? Come on, build a temple. If somebody wants to go deep into scripture, they can also serve in a very important way. But if that's what they want to do, they need to have a supportive culture around them. Others who also value that definition of success. It's like-minded association. But after that, each one of us has to recognize that we will never get, there are two things in life. It's like, let's put it this way, with respect to bhakti service. Do service, we will never get two things together. Freedom and facility. So if I want freedom, if I want to do things my way, then I cannot expect the facility from others. If I want facility, say for example, if I go to the temple, and the temple there is every morning the Bhagavatam class. Now, if I go there and I want to speak, they may allow me to speak, but they will expect me to speak on the Bhagavatam. If I say, oh, I'll speak on the Vedanta Sutra. Okay, if you want to speak, that's fine, but not here. Right? You can create your own forum and speak. So every forum, it has a certain set of norms. So if we want freedom, we can have it, but we can't expect facility at that time. So that means if we want to do it in a particular way, maybe we just want to cultivate people who are well-wishers. And temple's mood is, we want to have people who become devotees. We want to do a well-wishers program only. Temple, we want to do it in the temple. The temple may say, no, we don't want to do such a program. Okay, we can do it on our own. So the problem comes when we want freedom and we want facility also. So one facility could also be encouragement, appreciation. That when we do some service, we want to be appreciated or admired. Not in the egoistic sense, at least that I did something worthwhile. But we may not get that. So if we are ready to accept that, then that's fair enough. So over a period of time, and there's no absolute right or wrong in these things. I was in New Zealand, and there is one Mataji, the Kiwi Mataji. So she has started like a Krishna Puppy Child Therapy Center. The Krishna Puppy. What is Krishna Puppy? It's a fascinating story. So she was a orphan. She was a foster child basically. She went from home to home in her childhood. And the only constant when the parents passed away when she was on 3 or 4. So the only constant in her life in her childhood was a puppy dog she had. Her parents had given her a pet as a puppy, and that puppy was always there with her. And then she got another puppy, another dog she had. So the dog was basically constant for her in her childhood. And then she grew up and she became a devotee. And she became a devotee. She said, okay, no attachment to pets. That's what she learned. And it's a mundane attachment. We have this Bharat Mara story, isn't it? So anyway, so she gave up that attachment. But then she said, when I was in that temple, she was staying in that temple for some time getting training. She was chanting Hare Krishna. She was always remembering a dog. She had that. attachment, you can say, but that was what was the constant in her life. So now she started a therapy center for traumatized kids. And she said the pain that she had gone through, she wants to help them. And the government supports that. And in that therapy center, she has all around, nice, colorful pictures of Krishna in an animal in a forest setting. And then she has soothing Krishna music in a Western format. And the kids are there, and they play with puppies, and they see Krishna over there. They hear about Krishna's song. And so many of these kids become so peaceful, they're so agitated. So now, who would have thought something like this? No, she had an attraction toward dogs. And now she had gone through a particular experience, she used that. And that is not only, it has created good PR also. These devotees are doing something like this, and children are recovering from therapy. Recovering basically over there. So we can always take from our experience and find some ways to do things. So it may be, initially we may go through a period of suspicion or criticism, but that's okay. If we are strongly convinced about something and we are guided by at least one senior devotee, then we can persist in it. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Jai Gaur Premanande. So, can I just talk about the book? Yeah. Should we get talk about this?
You can use it.
So, I just give it. So much of what I spoke today is from this latest book of mine. It is Gita for the CEO. So, this is for all of us are ultimately meant to be a CEO of our own life. And we all have the potential to be leaders. Though some of you are already leaders also. But how can the Gita's wisdom help us in our corporate life? It is spiritual wisdom for spiritual growth. It is also wisdom. Arjuna was a very successful person in the worldly sense of the word also. So this can also be a good book to give to colleagues and bosses who may not necessarily read a Bhagavad Gita directly, but this can lead them, trigger their interest in the Bhagavad Gita and help them to lead it. So just as I was having some diagrams and something like that, so I have diagrams and depictions explaining concepts. So it's also, the Gita is originally a conversation. This is also presented as a conversation between two CEOs. One knows the Gita and the other is eager to know the Gita. So they have question answer discussion. So if any of you want this book, I am available here. I can also sign the book, and also can, if you have any questions, we may have some time to talk also. Thank you so much for your participation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we've been learning from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu for a decade. At least for me, I can say that I've been learning from him for at least a decade now. Whatever we try and facilitate in terms of the Bhagavad Gita in class, we mostly are learning from personalities like Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. You saw that how on the spot he was really making things very structured for us, right? Like acronyms and diagrams and everything. So books like this, he has authored around 30 books, and this is one of his latest books. It's a beautiful looking book, nice, handy, light, published by one of the leading publishers in the world, HarperCollins. Very, very nice book to have, and also very nice book to give. Not all of us can talk to other colleagues and family and neighbors about the Bhagavad Gita, because people think, oh no, it's a religious book and हम भगवान के बारे में नहीं बात कर सकते, and or the Bhagavad Gita is too complicated for me, मेरे पास time नहीं है and everything, right? But for them, especially if you want to give it to them, this is a perfect gift, right? We have many birthdays, shadi season is going on. We give a lot of cutlery and pass on, like passing the parcel, different books, different things, right? So this is something that can be differentiator. Your friends will maybe remember you in a good way or a bad way. That book दे रहा है मेरे को, but once they read it, I'm sure they'll really thank you for it. And this is an amazing opportunity for us to get it signed by the author himself. And We have the QR code for it for the contribution for the book, and along with that, you can come here and get it signed by Chaitanya Prabhu and basically have a conversation with him. Alongside, we'll also have prasadam start.